Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news, interviews, and fun for the WordPress community. Now, welcome your host, Nathan Wrigley. Hello there, and welcome once again to the WP Builds podcast. You've reached episode number 472, entitled Selling Products in YouTube Videos with WooCommerce. It was published on Thursday, the 18th of June, 2026. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and we'll get to the conversation about WooCommerce in a moment. But before we do that, a few bits of housekeeping. The usual stuff. If you love what we do, head to wpbuilds.com/subscribe, join our newsletter, find us on socials, all of that kind of stuff. And if you like what we do and you have a product or service in the WordPress space, be that hosting, plugins, themes, blocks, whatever it may be, and you would like that to be put in front of a WordPress specific audience, we can definitely help with that. We have a large WordPress specific audience, dare I say it. Head to wpbuilds.com/advertise to find out more, or just email me, admin@wpbuilds.com, and let's see if we can get you discovered in this increasingly difficult time to be discovered. Okay, what have we got for you today? Well, today I am chatting with Jörn Orsang. Apologies, Jörn, for mispronouncing your name, both just then and in the podcast as well. And we're talking about something truly, really interesting. I honestly didn't know this was a thing. WooCommerce have made it possible for you to sell things directly inside of YouTube videos. So let's imagine for a moment that you have a WooCommerce store and you're selling widgets. In the past, you may have been making promotional content on the YouTube side just to bolster the recognition of your brand. Well, now you can put little ads inside the video at the exact moment that you wish for that product to be clicked upon. And so anybody watching the video can click directly at the moment they are seeing what it is that you're showing on the screen. And I think this is really powerful. So Jörn is here today from WooCommerce, and he's telling us about how this has been built, why it's been built, what are the key features, who can use it, what's the best way to go about marketing in this manner, and so much more. Really interesting, something utterly unique, at least for me anyway. And I hope that you enjoy it. I am joined on the podcast by Jörn Orsang, I think. Is that good enough?
Pretty good.
Okay. I practiced it for all of 10 seconds. Jörn's surname means hilly field, which is a really nice thing. My surname means, as far as I'm aware, absolutely nothing. No idea what my surname means. So that's a nice little fun fact at the beginning. We're on the podcast today. We're going to talk about WooCommerce and, wait for it, YouTube. What the heck? I didn't realize there was any connection between WordPress, WooCommerce, and YouTube, but it turns out there is. And having watched some promotional videos, this is pretty cool. So stay tuned for that. But before we get stuck into that, Jörn, do you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, like your background, I guess, in tech and WordPress, and what it is that you do currently and who you work for, you know, that kind of thing?
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me, by the way. My name is Jörn. And again, it's a few letters we don't have in the alphabet over here. So, I typically go by Joe even at Starbucks. If anything, say something like J, I'm listening. I work here at WooCommerce, or Automatic as the larger company is called. The kind of commercial arm a little bit of WordPress, with WordPress.com, with WooCommerce and their Tumblr, and, there's a range of companies under there. I've been working here for, it's actually coming up on 4 years, but it feels much less. Sign of the times, I guess, a little bit with the speed of everything that's happening. And before that, I actually came from Google, and so I'm very, qualified to talk Google Ads. Okay. I guess I worked there for about 8.5 years, I think, across Ireland, San Francisco, down to LA, where I live now with my 3 kids and wife, and I work here in partnerships, particularly where, our goal is to kind of work with other companies to enable partnerships for our merchants to essentially simply use both. So the example would be, payments providers, advertising, kind of my space, but, also the shipping areas, the tax areas. If you are a business, you're very likely to need a lot of these things. And so, if we do our job right, we enable it simply for the merchants, a few clicks as possible, quick sign up, maybe even a good deal if you know, we're doing it really well. And so that's kind of what I do here. Obviously focused on advertising, given my background.
Yeah.
Plus there's a lot of money in it, so it's exciting.
So does your background in Google, was that kind of one of the levers that got you into Automatic, you know, through the interview process and things? Was that part of your expertise?
They never said so, but I'm quite confident it was exactly why.
Okay.
And you know, their ads is obviously a big business, especially in e-commerce and merchants. And you know, it's simple the way we built it, but it's quite complicated in the way that, you know, the product and the feed and the data and the structure and the imagery and the ad creation and all these things kind of need to work out really well. And for, you know, let's say you're a small merchant, there's a lot of work there. And so, you know, our goal here is to make that as simple as possible.
Okay. And you're a Norwegian living in LA. And so this is a question, I don't know that you have an answer for it, but I just kind of wondered why you lived in LA in terms of the job. I wondered if there was some kind of importance in being in California or benefit from being in California. Where I live in the UK, that part of the world always seems like the mecca for tech, and especially at the moment, AI and startups and e-commerce and all that. It all seems to be coming from the west coast of the US, California in particular. So really, that question isn't really a question. I'm just curious as to if there's a part of that which is why you're living there.
I'm just here for the weather.
Okay.
No, you know what I'll say is I studied in California. It wasn't planned. I just ended up studying in California, and I didn't know what to expect. This was part of my, my university, education in Norway. And I went over and I was just like, what do you mean they have this weather all year round? And this is again back in like 2010. But, you know, it was a very nice place, San Francisco, back then when I was up there. And so I was hell-bent on going back. And that's pretty much what led me to where I am. I went through Ireland to work for, a multinational American company. So I worked a little bit for PayPal and eBay when they were one company back there. And then got into Google. Google took care of the visas over to San Francisco. I didn't love that, as late as 2017 kind of thing. And so, moved down to LA because I travel here a lot for work. And the sun, the beaches, the diversity of of what LA is.
Nice.
If it's creatives or, I just meet so many different people where I think, in San Francisco, people kind of still wear their badge when they go out kind of thing. Like I work there, work is my life, and these are my, stock units.
Right, okay.
And that wasn't for me. And so
firmly attached to work, even when you're outside. I know Automatic is a widely distributed company, so I did have an intuition that the decision about where you live is probably your own, but it was kind of curious. I just wondered if there was a connection there. Okay, so we'll move on to the main topic. And I got to confess that I had no idea that this was a thing. So I, like everybody, I consume a little bit of YouTube. However, I know that in terms of search engines, it's the second search engine behind Google itself. So that's a curiosity. But also I know that there is an increasingly large set of eyeballs finding itself on YouTube for increasingly large amounts of time each day. We could debate the good or the bad of that, but that is the reality. We've all got a mobile phone. Yep. We're on our mobile phone a lot. And it's become a really credible way of making people aware of the thing that you have to sell. You've got influencers making videos, you've got people unboxing things and making videos about how a product is launched and what have you. And so I guess some bright spark at some point in the past thought, well, wouldn't it be a neat idea if the person watching the video, at the moment this product comes about, let's say, for example, I unbox the latest iPhone or something like that. Wouldn't it be great if at the moment in the video that the iPhone is finally unboxed, a little option to purchase that thing came up? Well, yeah, that kind of all adds up, makes sense. And at that point, I suppose you're looking around thinking, well, how do we service that payment request? Where does the actual product get shipped from, and so on? And so very recently, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I noticed that YouTube had partnered with WooCommerce to make this possible. Now, is this entirely new? Is this binding of your product inventory to possible videos that you might make and WooCommerce? Is that a brand new thing, or is there more of a storied history of WooCommerce and YouTube going back?
The feature available from Google, the ability to put products in a video, isn't per se new. What is new here is that we made that integration and we've simplified that and, continue to build upon what this plugin, which is called Google for WooCommerce, very simply, what it can do for you. And so, no, the feature isn't necessarily like new in the way that you could. It's just made drastically simpler. And, again, trying to take away complexity for merchants in the way, they want to have their products on their YouTube videos. And so, just making that super simple, connecting the channel. And now the plugin can take care of all that. And so the merchant doesn't have to do any of that heavy lifting in getting their product feeds, exported and connected to YouTube and all that. And so it's essentially one step further in making this plugin everything you need from Google, instead of all these different things. As you sure can imagine, Google has so many products, and you have your YouTube over there, and you have your Gmail over there, and you have your Sheets over here, and you have like your Google Search Console and your Google Business Profile and your Google Maps. And so, trying to kind of put this together in a package where it's not so overwhelming for merchants is something we do. And YouTube was, something we really needed. Like you say, YouTube is, the biggest video platform, and that's where, people find the products. It's where they do their research. It's where they learn to tie a tie. And so, it's important for businesses to be there.
Okay. And I think that's increasingly the case. I remember, I don't know, I'm going back a decade, that sudden realization that if I needed to figure out almost anything to do with plumbing in my house, somebody had made a video. Like, it was already, that whole ship had sailed. Like, okay, you need this really peculiar video about the plumbing that you've got in your bathroom that nobody has a clue about. Somebody somewhere's done a video. And so that reach is totally immense. However, from the Woo side, so we're saying all of this, like, YouTube is massive. WooCommerce is obviously the biggest e-commerce platform out there of any kind, despite what you might hear elsewhere. That's my understanding. Do people actually make use of this? I know you've just launched it, but do you have metrics to show that people are actually taking this on? Because it sounds like such a neat idea, but have you seen like a throughput of people saying, yeah, okay, not only is it a neat idea, but we're going to implement this?
So most things we integrate at all is because somebody asked for it. Like we typically, we scour the internet essentially, if they're on Reddit, or any platform saying like, hey, why don't you have YouTube? Like, I'd love for it to be YouTube here. Like we kind of, build this, and that's, that helps inform our roadmap. In this case, it's an entirely additional kind of surface of selling for merchants. And so, just the commercial piece alone and the opportunity for merchants was a huge one for us to do this. We've been very focused on ads so far, like your typical, what we'd call shopping ads, which is the product listing with the picture, the price, those kind of like smaller ads. And so we're trying to also bring more into it. We've seen merchants come through. Of course, already, Google obviously helpful here as well. We know for a fact that, we have thousands of merchants that have channels. And so, we know we have a market for it. So it's just about kind of making the connections and making it easy. And, this makes sense. And like you say, a lot of people start a business from the angle of it being a hobby. And so an example could be, you're into playing guitar and you just kind of start online, you play guitars on YouTube and you build videos and people start watching. And then, after a while you see, hey, this could be a business. And so you start maybe selling, a few things related to this. And so, a lot of them actually kind of started on YouTube, and then the WooCommerce and the rest is kind of following after. So like you can kind of come in from both sides of that. We're here to just enable commerce really in any way we can, as simply as we can.
I don't know if you've ever sort of had this intuition, but I have, especially around podcasting. So this is the audio side of things, but I've definitely noticed it in the small amount of YouTube that I watch. I'm actually fairly habitual. That is to say, I'll browse around for things that I like. And then when I find a character, it's usually an individual that I like, I go fairly deep into that and I listen to their stuff over and over and over again. As they put out their weekly stuff, I consume it because I've figured out I like this person. I like the way they talk. I like their banter and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's the sort of thing that we used to have in bricks and mortar stores, and I'm not even talking about in my lifetime because that quickly got consumed by giant organizations. I'm thinking more in my parents' era where, you'd go to the street corner and you'd have a chat with this person and they would be some sort of confidant of yours. I think this is an approximation to that, in that you begin to trust these people. So, I don't know, you've got somebody who's reviewing tech on YouTube and you watch 12 videos and you think, do you know what? This is really credible. Like, they obviously do the work. They've surfaced a load of interesting detail. I love what this person's creating. And so you build up over time this, how to say it, this weird trust thing. Obviously, the creator doesn't know most of the audience, but the audience know the creator. And so that does seem like a really credible way of either starting or certainly maintaining. And again, there's no question there, but I don't know if you've got any insights into that observation, whether or not that's something you agree with or disagree with.
I fully agree. I think, like you say, it's all chains, it's all big, it's all, like faceless places. You go and buy something from a big corporation somewhere, and then you go on YouTube and you can see somebody. It's the same person every week. They share their opinions, their feelings, they share what they bought, favorite, and, can kind of justify to you why. It feels like, they're trustworthy, they're authentic. And I think, people have been lacking a little bit of that, maybe from, very large brands where, they say one thing, but maybe they'll do something else on the back end. Where, when you're on YouTube and it's one person and it's their business, they rely on that trust so much for their business. And so they're not willing to mess with it. And I think people can kind of detect that, and we're all desperate for, some expert advice and, trying to find those people we feel we can trust. And I think YouTube is a platform where you have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Whether it's buying something, but, also like, fixing something or learning something new or, and you kind of trust it because you can also see the numbers. How many other people are watching these people every week?
Right.
And so you're kind of like a little, not to say a cult or anything, but you're definitely a group of like fans. And I think that's a little community in itself.
Yeah, and you can really
that people
niche
just
down,
want to be part of.
Can't you? You can really sort of niche down. Like, I don't know, you might follow the guy who just reviews camping equipment all day, every day, or I don't know, mobile phones or whatever. The watches seem to be a thing for some people, and you can just get into this little niche, kind of nerd out on what's going on there. Okay, so I have to make a confession, right? I have YouTube Premium, and I don't know if that inoculates me. That's maybe the wrong word, but I don't know if that prevents me from seeing stuff, because I know, for example, quite a lot of the advertising is stripped out by YouTube because I pay basically to have a different variation on YouTube.
Yeah.
The decision was made basically to stop my kids from being, like every 8 seconds an ad would get in the way of their viewing pleasure. So we did that. Right. So why I'm saying all of that is I don't really have any exposure to these kind of ads surfacing. Not ads, these selling opportunities surfacing. So that's my question really. What do we see as a YouTube consumer? How do our products surface themselves in a YouTube video? Let's imagine we're on a phone or the desktop, whichever you want to take. Just talk us through from the viewer's point of view, and then we'll get to how do we bind our products to it and all of that kind of stuff. What do we see, and how does it all work on the front end of YouTube?
Well, I think the way you see it, the most typical way I think most have seen it in the wild would be like, you're watching somebody reviewing something maybe, and it's like, oh, do you want to, buy something? I'll link it there. Like click, and there'll be a little pop-up that they can control. That's the typical kind of, you're tagging a product in the video. And then there's other things you can do, like you can, make playlists that kind of, connect your products to that in nice ways. And so essentially you can just plug your products in anywhere. But you are right, if you pay for the premium and you see less ads, the ads are a typical way where, you can connect some of these things. And so you'll see less of it. But it really depends on the channel you go to and how actively they use it, which I still don't think is, kind of become like fully mainstream. I think, there's a lot of merchants who have a big channel who's not doing this very well, at least. And so, again, trying to make that simpler is something that we do. But that's how you'll see it. You'll see it listed, in or around your videos. And so if you look around, once it's there, you'll start seeing it.
Okay. But it sounds from what you're saying, although the technology has been around for a little while, maybe people haven't sort of implemented it. Maybe there's been a really difficult technical barrier to doing that. Okay, so
the video and create it.
Yeah, yeah.
You need the channel first of all, so you kind of need to be good on the creative front and have videos. So if you're a business and you don't have that, you can connect your products, but you don't have great videos, and so it's you need all of it kind of.
Okay. And I imagine you probably need to, given the way the YouTube algorithm works, I imagine you probably need to spend a little bit of time building that audience before you then start to monetize that in the videos themselves. Okay, so let's imagine then.
There are some small requirements, I think, in terms of how many subscribers you should have.
Right.
And a few other things before you can kind of start doing this. But it's quite low. I think it's around 500 or something.
Okay. So it's open to anybody that's got a channel which is, got a small following, let's say that. All right. So I've got my YouTube channel. Let's say that I'm somebody and I'm reviewing, let's go with wristwatches. That was something that we mentioned earlier. I'm reviewing wristwatches. I've got a back catalogue of wristwatch videos. And now I decide, okay, wouldn't it be a good idea if when I mentioned this particular wristwatch, I gave people an opportunity to actually go and rather than pull away from the video, go and Google it somewhere else and end up who the heck knows where that is. Wouldn't it be nice if they ended up on my WooCommerce store because I can sell it directly to you if you like the look of it. So how does that work? How do we make the connection between our WooCommerce website and YouTube? And I'm guessing this is where the new shiny plugin comes in. Do we make the video? I'm guessing we make the video first and kind of figure out which bits of the video we need to timestamp, or I don't even know if timestamping is a thing. So basically I'm saying, tell us how it works.
So exactly like you say, it lives in the plugin. And the way it works, and not to get into too many details, but if you're an advertiser, you'll know this, that there's something called the Merchant Center. The Merchant Center is essentially like that connection to Google where you upload their product. So the base function of this plugin in some way is that we take the products that you have on WooCommerce and we format it the way that it needs to be formatted and we put it into Google in the Merchant Center. And so this connection with YouTube again is essentially taking that feed again that you have in the Merchant Center and connect it to your YouTube channel. And so essentially when you go in and manage your channel, you'll see this, these products pop up and new features and way you can do it. So, like you mentioned, you can tag it at a time in your video. And I'm sure you've seen this too, but sometimes when you watch a video, depending on the screen that you're on, you can see a little shelf of shopping products underneath.
Okay.
That's also a part of this. And so you can add a little shopping button, buy now. So there's a few of those overlay things for your videos where you can add the products. But the core feature here is essentially getting your products with pictures, descriptions, and price availability into YouTube and have that, two-way connection. So if somebody buys anything, does that impact your inventory? Of course it does. So you need to update those things to your store with WooCommerce. And so these things are kind of what the plugin and just the heavy lifting of all of that in the back. All you see is your products are suddenly on YouTube in your channel, and you can start adding them, under your product or videos, in your videos. And you could also do you could have a store tab on YouTube. This is, typically bigger merchants might go as far as this, but, you can watch all their videos and then they actually have a store tab where you can see all their products.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And so it's becoming more shoppable, this YouTube. And, it's part of the, I guess, broader, like we talked about before, this social kind of shopping, but also the social validation of, the products themselves. Because there's so much stuff out there that, they all look good. They all look great. So, you want to have somebody say, well, this one is great. You should buy this one. And I think that's where YouTube and other social platforms really come in.
Yeah. And if you think about the example of the watch, so the watch is actually, I think fits in really well here because looking at it on a website, there's only so much information about that watch that you're actually going to be able to get across. And, a description, what's it made of? What are the materials? How big is it? And, what the cost is and what have you. But that 3-minute video of some person wearing it and then describing it and showing it, you can really go a whole lot further. And then there's that beautiful layer of authenticity. Whereas if you watch a product demo made by, let's say, Rolex, that that's some sort of fake simulation of what it might be like and what have you. Whereas this is hopefully an honest review. You get to see it in the real world. I'm struggling to sort of encapsulate that, but it's that authentic layer. It's that bit of here's an actual human who I trust demonstrating it, hopefully not in an icky way. And caveat emptor, I imagine if you're a YouTube channel owner, there are pitfalls and minefields to tread here, like overdoing it with the amount of product placement. And, you know, you suddenly lose that authenticity because that YouTube channel now is only about plugging products, not about actual reviewing. But I think that's a really interesting layer. Okay, right. Back to the plugin and how it works. So you've got your inventory. Let's say I've got 50 watches in my YouTube, in my WooCommerce inventory. I've got images of them all. I've got descriptions of them all. I've obviously got pricing. Then the plugin will bind that to videos and I can timestamp them and things like that. But does this mean, therefore, that stuff can be dynamic? And what I mean by that is, let's say that the video that I made last year, everything in that video still is true. The watch is the same, but my price went down by 50%. Does it do that? So in other words, it's not sort of writing something permanently into the video. This is more like a layer over the video that you can change on a whim, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
To the point that, you know, the changes and the updates that you make to your products on the feed. So the feed gets updated. You know, you can set this yourself, but, you know, if you're really, really big merchants with thousands and thousands of products, this is, you know, down to hourly where you get the updated price. And so the products are being updated and then just essentially updated in your YouTube channel. You wouldn't necessarily adjust any of your product metrics in YouTube.
Right.
You know, the products you have there are available, but, you know, this plugin kind of enables that for all of your products. So you go to WooCommerce, you manage your products and everything there, and the plugin will take care of making sure those changes, you know, kind of cascade in through all of the, you know, surfaces on Google where you also are. And so that's how that works, essentially, you know, making it easy for you to adjust your product data one place, and then the changes will be reflected everywhere. And so the plugin and the merchant center in this case will take care of that for you.
Do you know how, like, I suspect the answer is going to be no, because although you have worked with Google, a lot of this stuff is very much secret source. It's their whole business running. You know, if we could all figure out what Google were doing, you know, none of us would be doing much from sitting on the beach all day, I imagine. But I'm wondering if Google are increasingly taking product placement videos and surfacing them, because they take that as a signal, well, you know, that's interesting. Maybe our users would enjoy that. Obviously, they get a little bit of a cut out of that. So the question there really is, do you know how Google treats videos with this layer of data behind it, maybe differently than just a video, the exact same video, but with no data layer behind it?
I don't think we know, and I think even when I worked there, they wouldn't count.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that kind of secret sauce.
Expected answer.
Very much the secret sauce. But you know, what I will say is that they care about the quality of the channel. And, you know, that kind of comes first. And I think YouTube, one of the reasons it is so good and great is that they actually have quite strong, you know, the policies and the quality for the videos and the quality of your content, for your content to be shown, is quite high. And so they kind of, you know, there's a little guardrail here in terms of like, you need a certain level of base quality here before, you know, in terms of subscribers in this case, but some other things as well, to just make this eligible as a feature for you. And so then it enriches the ones that have kind of done that job of proving and, you know, committing and, you know, making good content. And so that's kind of the way it works. We've got no data points or any kind of insight saying that adding products will essentially make your content more favorable in terms of being found on YouTube or views or anything. But, you know, users like this, you know. There's a lot of people saying, you know, ads here and the products there, but, you know, we all kind of click and buy it. And so, you know, we do appreciate it, even though there's a few people that are tired of ads.
Well, do you know what? If you gave me, so I obviously have opted myself out of this by paying for YouTube Premium. But if you were to give me a choice between a video, an authentic video with like this optional data layer over the top where I could buy the thing, or some random injection of just meaningless adverts that I definitely don't want to watch, I would rather this, because at least I know that the creator is getting paid. It's probably not interrupting the video. There's no like, okay, let's go off and make a cup of tea whilst this 40 seconds of video that, you know, about something we don't care about happens. The video is basically the same video, but you got this layer. You know that Google are sort of getting paid their cut. You know that the creator's getting paid their cut, and you're not going to watch the inauthentic stuff anyway. So this seems like a rather intelligent way of going about it. I'm kind of really drawn to this. I'm going to keep my eyes out for it. Okay, so when I was watching YouTube years and years and years ago, there was basically YouTube. People uploaded videos of any kind. And now you fast forward to the year 2026, it seems like YouTube is, how to describe it, like fragmented. Let's go with that word. You've got long form video, the old fashioned, you know, it's basically, it's a rectangle, it's like landscape, and that video could be 3 minutes long or it could be 7 hours long, who knows. But now we've also got these kind of attention grabbing YouTube shorts. You've got these sort of shopping channels. You've got people doing live stuff. I don't know how this fits into all of that bit as well, like these different formats. Does it work with only the old format landscape long form video, or can it go into all of these new forms as well?
I'm pretty sure it works well with your typical kind of live thing. You know, that's always been like the live shopping, you know, the unboxing and, you know, the live kind of thing. It's primarily around the long form content, but I think, you know, it's also a bit early days for shorts, to be honest. You know, I think shorts came out as a little bit of a response to how well Instagram and maybe more so TikTok was, you know, were doing. And so they kind of, you know, ran in with that. And, you know, I think really the experience here depends on where you're watching it. So let's say I watch on my big TV in the living room, and I have every other, you know, it's videos, there's live streams, and there's shorts, all in the one big interface. If you're on your phone, you're going to be, you know, kind of seeing more of the shorter form, you know, the vertical, the shorts, those kind of things. If you're on a laptop, you know, slightly different again. And so I think, you know, the viewer experience really depends on where you're watching it a little bit. And from a product perspective, it's definitely more towards like the informational videos, you know, like your typical YouTube video. The shorts are too short in many ways for you to kind of click and buy in the same time. And so that's where we are right now. But again, the shorts is a relatively new product. I'm sure they have huge plans on how shopping and the shorts are going to play together.
Yeah. And honestly, it feels like I know we sort of talk about this sort of stuff in terms of it being good, but also it being bad. But there is an absolute epidemic of YouTube consumption. You know, whether or not you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, it is a thing. People are getting their entertainment no longer from the regular TV. I don't know what your habits are like, but when I was a kid, basically everybody watched the same TV show because there was only this tiny amount of TV shows available, and there's no TV on demand. You just watched what was provided, and you'd go to school the next day and everybody would talk about that one show. And for my kids who are, you know, not particularly old, this is a really different reality. You know, they watch what the heck they want to watch, when they want to watch it, for how long they want to watch it, and flip to something, and, you know, it's all ubiquitous. And they really are looking to sort of niche down. You know, they're into Minecraft. They just want to watch endless amounts of Minecraft or whatever the thing that they're into is. And it does seem that if you are selling into those, you know, if you've got a Minecraft product company, or you're making, I don't know, updates to Minecraft or whatever the heck Minecraft can do, it would be a bit silly not to be looking for YouTube content, basically.
Exactly. YouTube is just the number one video platform. Simple as that in many cases, especially within gaming and some of those kind of niche areas. There's really nothing like it. And so it's a gold mine. If you do it the right way, you know, get your products, you can get in front of the audience in a way that, you know, TV just couldn't compete with. You know, I also think one thing is premium versus no premium, but like, even if you have ads, the ad pressure on YouTube videos compared to watching TV, which is like in some countries all the way up to like 27 minutes per hour in ads,
brutal.
Like that's half your time. And so like it's absolutely insane. And so, you know, and America as well, you know, if I watch cable and there's a movie on, I know the movie is 90 minutes, but it's 3 hours long, the entire thing, because I'm watching so many ads. And I think people have just realized you don't have to. And, you know, and at the same time, like attention span has kind of declined a little bit.
Yeah.
whatever you want to say about that. But, YouTube is prime for that in terms of like they give you 5-minute videos, 8 minutes, 20 minutes, instead of these like, oh, it's an hour-long show with half of it's going to be ads. Like nobody's got the patience for that. And so I think we're going in this direction. Of course, streaming has also kind of fueled this. And, I don't have cable TV. I just have YouTube and streaming channels and Disney
me
and
too.
whatever.
Yeah.
My kids know YouTube.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Turn on YouTube and they know the 3 buttons. And he's just 3 to click and get into Paw Patrol. And so, they can manage that. And I think, it's just the way it's going to be. I don't know why, watching ads that you don't want to watch, I think it's a huge problem. And I think TV is not doing great at that. They're getting better. But, it's hard to target at scale when you don't, it's not you choosing the product. The product is just what the program says is on. YouTube is more like, hey, you clicked that video because you wanted to watch that video. So you are attentive, you are there, and you're open to it. And I think that's where you just can't compete. I think and that's why YouTube works so well.
My intuition with this is the people who succeed, and I hope I'm right, but I could be completely wrong, are the people who maintain that level of authenticity, who, if a thing is rubbish, will still continue to say, this is rubbish, but here's a link anyway, it's up to you if you want to buy it. But here's the really good one, and here's the link for that one. What I'm saying is that I think there is a future for that. And I think it stands in opposition for sort of blanket advertising on just regular TV networks and overconsumption, like you said, 27 minutes in an hour for ads. I would far rather be exposed to this and know that this person was legitimate. And if you can maintain that legitimacy, well, we already know, some of these YouTubers go on to have really incredible careers if you do it right. And maintaining that right, I'm doing air quotes, is basically, I think, the way to succeed. Is it going to be a quick win? Probably not, I would imagine, unless you get very lucky. You're going to have to be in this for the long haul.
It's a tough business.
Yeah. But now you've got WooCommerce in your back pocket, free open source software that you can use. Tell me, is this plugin free open source? I imagine it's open source, but are we able to download aspects of this for free, or is this a paid for?
It's all free.
Yeah.
It's all free, of course, like not the ads that you can buy through it. They're not free, but the whole idea is to bring the best of Google that we can, kind of to connect it to your store right in front of your fingertips. You can run ads, and this started with just the simplest of shopping ads, and it was called something else back then, smart shopping or something like that. And then you had PMax, Performance Max, and AI and everything, kind of connected. So it's becoming much more simple. And, in the same time as we launched the YouTube feature, we also launched the AI assets. So like we're using AI essentially to build assets for you, take the best pictures, and Google knows what performs well in this scenario as well. So, and these things have always been like those kind of things that are challenging for merchants, but you also don't know what good looks like. And having Google and AI to kind of tell you that and show you, hey, this is going to be working better than that, let's test it, is enormously helpful. And especially around assets, and assets and video assets have been probably the biggest challenge for merchants and especially SMBs to get onto any video advertising is a good video ad. And so AI is actually really helping with that. But again, you need to kind of balance this with the authenticity, like you say, people notice. And so, this together, like obviously YouTube and video can be a core part of your business on WooCommerce.
Yeah, this is not going to be a gravy train unless you put in some solid hard work and be authentic and probably be fairly, timely. I imagine if you produce one video and then wait 6 months for the next one, it's not going to work out so well. I imagine that, having a schedule and sticking to it and those kind of things, the boring work of having a blog, that kind of stuff, there's going to be a lot of that. But Google for WooCommerce seems like a really, really neat way of making a few extra quid in some cases, or maybe making an actual, living out of the videos that you make. There's a couple of posts that I'm going to link to in the show notes. So if any of this has kind of piqued your curiosity, obviously you can Google Google for WooCommerce. That's there's a sentence that's not easy to say. But also, one that might be of relevance to you was a blog post not that long ago, 30th of April, it was written, YouTube shopping is live for WooCommerce. Here's how to make the most of it. And there's a little article on the WooCommerce blog that you can check out as well. And if you want to give me any links before we finally say adieu at the end of this call, I'll put those in the show notes as well. So go check it out. I think I've got everything I want from this episode. I think we've fully understood what the product is and how it might work. It's over to you, dear listener. Go and download it and play. If you've got a WooCommerce shop and you've got an intuition that you want to make YouTube videos, there's a match made in heaven just right here. Yeah.
Got 900,000 installs, and so it's
really
quite big in this space. And so it does not that necessarily the YouTube part, but it's a huge play. It's a huge part. We're seeing record return on ad spend for users in there. So if you want to make some money with your WooCommerce store, connect to the plugin, autopilot from there.
Yeah, I should say that the stuff that we talked about today, the YouTube, is just a teeny part of what Google for WooCommerce can do. But nevertheless, go and check it out and you can find out some of the other bits and pieces that it does as well. So with that said, we'll knock it on the head, as we say in the UK. That was fascinating. Thank you so much for chatting to me today. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Okay, there we go. That's all we've got time for this week. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, head to wpbuilds.com, search for episode number 472 and leave us a comment there. Like I said at the top of the show, wpbuilds.com/subscribe to keep in touch, /advertise if you want to find out about getting your products or services injected into the audio of this podcast, or you can just email me, admin@wpbuilds.com. We will be back next week. Before that, though, we'll also be back on Monday for the This Week in WordPress show. I'm sure you've heard me banging on about that many times before. Join us. It's a lot of fun. It's on Monday, 2 p.m. UK time. Other than that, we'll see you next week. I'm going to fade in some cheesy music. Say, stay safe. You have a good week. Bye-bye for now.